Ivy Valentine subscribes to Mark Yoon. So should you. Enjoy your treat!
Alright, what's up? So in today's video, I want to actually talk about ALGOL's ambitions in SoulCalibur 7, like what's going on with him. For those of you that actually purchased the Season 2 Pass DLC for SoulCalibur 6, you did see a little bit of interaction within ALGOL. We've seen it with Ishka-Ak, we've seen it with even the likes of Mitsurugi and whatnot. So what's going on here? What's trying to happen? Like, what's his ambition? Like, what is the story set up for him going to be in SoulCalibur 7? These are a few of the things we're going to cover. This is not the timeline differences video. That's going to be upcoming at some point. We'll get to the next poll at the end of this video, but for now, let's just buckle in and we'll start talking about ALGOL himself and his ambition. So we all know the past timeline story, which I am assuming, I'm actually surmising that is the same ALGOL as here. There's no two different independent versions of ALGOL. I think that the Hero King only exists in the Astral Chaos at this point, and he is one amongst the multiverse, and it was just that one timeline in which he actually erupted to be that person. I'm not saying that the character or his son Arcturus or whatever like never existed in this timeline, but I'm saying the actions that were taking place to actually get to that standpoint only at least are precedented in that timeline, if not only existing in that timeline. Just to start with a starting point from there, we know that he created Soul Edge, right? Well, he at least used Soul Edge and it was tried to possess him in the past timeline, and he created SoulCalibur as a standpoint to that. And it said that like his goodness was so great that like he cast a shadow, that's what corrupted his son, and sought his son to seek out Soul Edge, which was like his legendary sword at the time, commit a bunch of atrocities in its name and under its threshold and whatnot. So we all know that story. We'll get more into that when we get to the timeline details. Him going crazy and then like trying to become a transcendent being, in which he actually did, and like the editor's note was that like he was supposed to be like a living marble statue, so similar to the Pillarman. That's what I always try to like associate these two with. But in any case, so coming out and trying to leave the mortal coil, as they would say, because he was trapped in the Astral Chaos, or at least he was just in the Astral Chaos, like gathering energies and whatnot, and he saw the power of the current day heroes in the past timeline, and he came forward and he said he wanted to control them and this whole land. This goes back to my original point where I was talking about before, where I was saying that like I don't think SoulCalibur is necessarily the good to Soul Edge's evil. I think they're both just two ambitious sides of the same coin, and they both operate in a very similar fashion a lot of the times, whether it comes to possession or taking on the appearance of somebody to get them to like collude or do somebody's business, corrupting someone. They just do the same thing. So whether or not they actually like present themselves as good or ill, like they're pretty much the same thing in my eyes anyway, and they're just locked in a clash for eternity with each other, and that's their main purpose or goal. They don't really have any transcendent goal to bring the universe into darkness or light. It's about like just defeating each other pretty much at this point, and pretty much using the heroes and humans in their power and quest to do so. But ALGOL comes into play in SoulCalibur 6 in like a very interesting way. In season, you don't hear anything about him. Like you hear like mismatches here and there, and like there's a part in the encyclopedia dedicated to him. If you're playing through Libra of Souls, you would have unlocked it. We get to this section of season 2, the DLC part, where you unlock certain soul chronicles for different characters such as Mitsurugi. And as I'm showing on screen, you'll have Mitsurugi talking with like Ishka-Ak, and Ishka-Ak talking directly with ALGOL and talking about their ambitions, and it seems like Nightmare is actually playing like not really the central focus at this point. It's Ishka-Ak seemingly not wanting to converse with ALGOL or knowing who ALGOL is, but with Ishka-Ak's powers and abilities to utilize the abilities of anybody by transforming into them, she would be a perfect vessel for ALGOL. But I would have said that before, but as Layla pointed out in the research for the last video, Mitsurugi was also talked about by Ishka-Ak as being so powerful compared to other humans, where they usually get weaker, he gets stronger in the Astral Chaos or in a chaos like tainted dimension, that he would be a very good host for ALGOL's body. Now, we don't know if ALGOL is being a disembodied spirit just because he can't access this timeline or he can't access this dimension, or whether something happened in the last timeline to where his body was destroyed and it's just his soul, or just like his powers or abilities like out there becoming one with the Astral Chaos, which he called home to for so many years. So we don't actually know that, and I don't think we can figure that out really until after, you know, we get ALGOL in the game in general, and like we get some kind of a backstory to what happened in the past timeline. Because as far as we know from it, at the end of SoulCalibur 5, there was like a good ending with like everything kind of tying up all the plot lines and whatnot as fast as they could, because that story was so short. ALGOL in and of itself, his ambitions or whatever, it didn't seem to end with him. It's like, oh yeah, okay, ALGOL was defeated and the day was saved. Like either something happened where the swords clashed and destroyed that timeline, or the astral chaos enveloped it and ate that timeline because of ALGOL's like revenge over being defeated or something, and now he's just stuck with no timeline to go, trying to break into this timeline. There's a lot of things that need to line up perfectly for the story to actually explain what happened in the past without just being like, okay, no, that still didn't exist. Because like we said in the last video, like as much as I would like that past timeline to not exist or not be canon, there are links to it directly, such as like Zasalamel warning his future self because he's like technically immortal, Cassandra's SoulCalibur 4 stumbling out of the astral chaos and finding herself and then warning her about that, and so on and so forth. There's a couple other instances where the timelines are crossed over in such a way also to explain some kind of past ideals and future goals. But ALGOL's goal is like simply just to conquer, like it always has been. That's what it seems to be. But I think now, like, he knows that like being defeated by Mitsurugi in the past timeline, like that would be a perfect subterfuge of his character to possess Mitsurugi. Because when you look at Mitsurugi as an actual character, especially in like the new timeline, he has more character development. But in the past timeline, he was literally just known as like the wandering samurai. He really didn't do anything. He was kind of like the conduit, for all intents and purposes, for the person or the player to experience the story through. They were pretty much like, Mitsurugi was our eyes to tell the story, the narrative, right? So him being so powerful in the astral chaos and having direct links now to our created characters in Libra of Souls, because that's canon, Libra of Souls is canon to the story, all this kind of stuff like seems to be lining up perfectly for it to be either Ishka Acht being possessed by ALGOL, or ALGOL not wanting to possess somebody who utilizes all those fighters' powers, but wants somebody who's powerful enough in the astral chaos to not be corrupted or whatever. So he can take possession of Mitsurugi, and Mitsurugi can be controlled through him or by him, or be possessed or completely taken over, or literally have Ishka Acht like trying to puppet string him. They were all kind of on the same page, but like after subsequent playthroughs, I've realized that like, no, they're like bickering and arguing with each other, and they can't get on the same page at all. And it seems like Ishka Acht doesn't even want anything to do with ALGOL, really. Like he's more of like a nuisance. Like she knows the possibilities of what like can be actually wrought on the planet if he's actually allowed to be introduced into this timeline. So I don't know, maybe she's trying to possess Mitsurugi so that like he can actually withstand the power to fight against ALGOL whenever he gets his new body, or maybe you know, she's just trying to prevent the possession in general. Like there's a lot of like questions that are like still left in the air, obviously, and we're gonna find that stuff out in SoulCalibur 7. But ALGOL specifically, like, just seems to want the same thing that he always has, which is being the conqueror of everything, I guess. And it's obviously that he's just been like completely warped by the astral chaos and by his time with Soul Edge and SoulCalibur, that he's no longer even, you know, cognizant or aware of like his own ambition. He's just like kind of go there, do this, conquer. Kind of like a typical overarching narrative bad guy kind of thing. You know, it's different from Soul Edge, like using Siegfried's body and like becoming Nightmare. It's different from, you know, Ishka Acht trying to like have the Swords and the Shepherds play into this whole role of like being the kind of Akatsuki, if you will, for SoulCalibur. There's a lot of differences there. ALGOL definitely needs more character development in this game. Whether or not his ambition is to actually conquer everything, or to possess somebody and then conquer everything, or destroy this timeline, just destroy everything. I don't know like what exactly that's going to entail, but what I do know, that what my biggest theory is that like possession is going to play a part in some way. I am of the opinion that I don't think ALGOL's body traditionally exists anymore. There is some pushback in my mind about this, that like he's probably just lost in the astral chaos and for some reason there's some barrier that he can't re-enter. But being someone who's like almost of the astral chaos at this point, and is like almost conquered and part and parcel to its power, you would think that he would be able to just cross over whenever he wants. So I'm just assuming, or I'm guessing, I'm speculating that like he is without a body, and that's why he is a disembodied voice. It's not because he's trapped there, it's because he actually doesn't have a body. And because his soul was so intertwined with the astral chaos and SoulCalibur and Soul Edge, his power is so great that this part of him lived on and probably is eternal, and we will literally try to see him come back in a new body. And that's why I think it's so important interactions that we have with Ishga'at and Mitsurugi, because we see Mitsurugi being lined up as like the perfect candidate to withstand the astral chaos, and we also see Ishga'at being the perfect candidate to be able to like manipulate any kind of warriors battle styles that she's seen in the past, kind of like a new Soul Edge type of situation. But I don't know, that's just the situation that I see it right now. It's obviously probably can evolve and change, and I'd love to hear what you think in the comment section down below, and we'll probably get on to the next video. But when we go for the poll from the last video, we actually have the voting for what's going to show up in the next character timeline differences video. And as you see here, the voting was unanimous against Kilik. So what this shows from this graph is that we're actually going to do Kilik first, and then we're going to do another poll to vote between Xianghua and Maxi, but it's probably going to be Xianghua based on this poll, and so on and so forth. We're going to go down the list until we get to everybody. These character timeline differences are going to be every 2 weeks. That way it gives me and Layla time to actually research a bunch, because we don't want to just like come at things like half nodded and people being like, well, that's not true, or that's not true, that's not true. So I'd rather not rush it and try to get everything done in a week. So we're going to do this every 2 weeks, and we're going to bring the video to a close here, guys. Obviously join the Discord if you want to chat about this stuff further. Join the Yoon-Fam if you want some awesome perks. Subscribe and like and all that good stuff. And as I always say, guys, I love it. Thank you.
And thank you.